A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News here on TV1 and Shakti TV. I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandara.
And I'm Rahna Farooq.
Well, you can follow all the stories that we air tonight through our social media feeds as well. Newsfirst.lk/Facebook and Newsfirst.lk/Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @Newsfirst_EN. Send us your comments on the stories we air today.
Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
IGP NK Lanka called on President to formally inform his retirement.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe meets his Chinese counterpart.
Most Venerable Warakagoda Jnanaratana Thero appointed as the Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect.
Government announces that it has to pay a penalty of $125 million for suspending operations of the Port City project.
Accident at the Vanavasala crossing in Kalania kills 1, injures 3.
Farmers inconvenienced over paddy purchasing.
The 100th birth anniversary of the late Sirimawo Bandaranaike was celebrated today.
President Maithripala Sirisena presided over the 100th birth anniversary celebrations of the late Sirimawo Bandaranaike held at the Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall. President Sirisena also launched the official website on the biography of the late Sirimawo Bandaranaike and also issued a commemorative stamp as well. Former President Chandrika Kumarthunga, Sunetra Bandaranaike, Vimukti Kumarthunga and many others were present for this event.
The historic duties performed by Sirimawo Bandaranaike were the requirements of those eras and also have greater value internationally too. The Sirima Shastri agreement is a historic agreement and was also a historic victory. If we attempt to reach into such agreements, people will say that we are trying to betray the nation to India. When Sirimawo Bandaranaike was elected as Prime Minister, I was a student back in 1970. During the 1994 government, I was able to obtain a deputy ministerial position from Chandrika Bandaranaike and a cabinet ministerial position in 1997. Sirimawo Bandaranaike was still the Prime Minister of this country. I closely associated Sirimawo Bandaranaike. During the 1978 constitutional debate in the parliament, Sirimawo Bandaranaike said that the executive presidency created by this constitution will not be able to prevent the dictator who will appear in the future, and that on that day we will all get into the streets and voice our objection against this dictator. I am sorry to say this, but I had to put her words into action.
News First takes a look back at the life of the world's first elected female Prime Minister, the late Sirimawo Bandaranaike.
Born as Sirimawo Ratwate Dias on the 17th of April 1916, she married SWRD Bandaranaike in the year 1940. She was thereafter referred to as Sirimawo Ratwate Dias Bandaranaike and was the loving mother of former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, former opposition leader and former speaker, the late Anura Bandaranaike, and renowned social worker Sunetra Bandaranaike. She entered politics following the assassination of her husband, the then Prime Minister SWRD Bandaranaike in 1959 and steered the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to take forward the Bandaranaike policy. In 1960, Sirimawo Bandaranaike became the world's first woman Prime Minister, as everyone nationally and internationally was struck by the fact that the world's first woman Prime Minister should emerge from this small island nation. From 1960 to 2000, she served as Prime Minister on 3 separate occasions. During her administration, she vowed to bring about a national economy based on domesticality, and it was an era which saw many important changes take place. Among those changes were making Sinhala language the main language of all public institutions, and the Commonwealth realm known as Ceylon was replaced by the modern Republic of Sri Lanka, and President of Sri Lanka replaced Queen Elizabeth II as head of state. The 5th Non-Aligned Movement Summit, which took place in Colombo in 1976, was held during her term in office. Establishing Sri Lanka's right over the Katchativu Island in 1974 proved talent in diplomatic relations. Sirimawo Bandaranaike made her mark in Sri Lankan politics for over 4 decades and never changed her loyalty towards the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. She died on election day 10th of October 2000 after having cast her vote for the last time.
Inspector General of Police N.K. Lanka called on President Maithripala Sirisena today to formally inform his retirement.
President Maithripala Sirisena said that N.K. Lanka, the outgoing Inspector General of Police, fulfilled his duties and responsibilities in protecting the dignity of his office. The President made these remarks when IGP N.K. Lanka called on him to formally inform his retirement at the President's office residence today. N.K. Lanka, the outgoing Inspector General of Police, is scheduled to retire on the 11th of April.
Up next is Action TV.
On the 28th of last month, the Minister of Rural Economy visited the Central Camp Paddy Storage Facility of the Paddy Marketing Board in Ampara and made strong views simply because there were no long queues of farmers who arrived to sell their paddy as witnessed at previous harvesting seasons.
This time around, we have delayed the funding. The money has been issued to the banks during the last week. We have not left room for farmers to engage in demonstrations for weeks and months after providing the paddy. We will give you the money. If you hand in your paddy today, you will receive the money from the bank tomorrow.
The statement made by the minister was simply an opinion and was not the actual ground reality. At previous harvesting seasons, the long line saw farmers together with their harvests, but this time around it's only farmers who are standing in line. In addition to this, a farmer is compelled to stand in 4 separate lines simply because of the new method introduced by the Paddy Marketing Board rather than following the government certified price. Phase 1 can be the line that can be witnessed where farmers have to obtain an application to sell their harvests to the Paddy Marketing Board. Earlier, this task was done by the farmers' regulators who reached out to the farmers and obtained their information. This time around, after staying in line to obtain the application from the storage facilities of the Paddy Marketing Board, it should be filled and a date should be obtained for it to be handed over to the same place where they obtained it from. There is a long line for this process as well. Since the paddy of only 40 farmers are purchased daily, the farmers have to keep waiting for a considerable amount of time after submitting the application form. After arriving on the allocated date with their harvest, the farmers must experience phase 3 of waiting in line. The farmers have to remain in the 4th line since the Paddy Marketing Board that once tried to obtain paddy from the farmers through a e-technology scheme cannot carry out tasks even through a far more simpler term. The farmers have lined in this manner near state banks not to obtain the money for the paddy they have sold, but to deposit the money they received into accounts. The farmers seem to know the mechanism that the board has to undertake if they are to avoid such inconveniences.
When the farmers hand over the paddy to the Paddy Marketing Board, the documents contains the name, the address and the ID number of the farmer. The application is handed over with the name. If the document is sent to the bank after being completed with the account details of the farmer will only have to come to the bank to obtain the money whenever it is needed. We will not have to queue up in this manner.
Why isn't the certified price scheme being implemented properly so that the farmers can repay their debt, celebrate the new year and do the needful for the next harvesting season? Is it done to remove the lines and to destroy the farmer? Minister of Rural Economy, this is over to you.
Motor accidents reported in the past 24 hours in different areas resulted in 7 fatalities and 3 injuries.
A train crashed through a tipper truck transporting sand at the Telangapatha crossing in Newsfirst.lk this morning. A passenger travelling on the footboard on the train died while 3 others were injured. The police media spokesperson's office stated that the train plying from Polgahavela to Colombo had crashed through the tipper truck. The railway's control room announced that the train was repaired and steps were taken to restore operations on the tracks. 2 persons were killed when the 3-wheeler they were travelling in collided onto a jeep in the Haudangave area in Sigiriya along the Dambula main road. The deceased were 57 and 36-year-old residents of the Haudangave area. The driver of the jeep was arrested. 3 persons were killed in an accident that took place in Kakirava, Senapura last night. The accident had taken place when the 3 youth travelling on a motorbike lost control of speed. The deceased were 26, 42 and 48 years of age. A motorcyclist was killed in an accident that took place in the Marminia area on the Puttalam-Kalmunai main road when the motorcycle collided onto a bus. The deceased was a 26-year-old resident of the Ambabal-Guswever area.
On to more local news tonight, illegal felling of timber at the Veerapadini Forest Reserve in Chilau has brought severe discomfort to locals living in surrounding areas.
Newsfirst today visited the area following information provided by the locals. This area, which was part of the Dadruoya Forest Reserve, adding much beauty to the environment, looks like this today. According to the locals, more than 200 trees of teak, kumbuk and even oak have been felled. They add that as even smaller trees fall prey to the timber racketeers, the Dadruoya Forest Reserve faces a severe risk.
That land over there belongs to me. The area I am in now is where the trees have been cut off. This land belongs to the government. Trees have been cut off in the land that is in between Dadruoya and the sluice gates. The damage caused is insurmountable. Large trees have been cut down. We have informed the authorities about this matter, but we did not receive any solutions. What we request is that this destruction be stopped.
Locals also stated that they have informed the Chilau Divisional Secretariat and Grama Seva officer regarding this matter.
The most venerable Warakagoda Jnanaratna Thero was today unanimously elected as the Mahanayaka of the Askari chapter of the Siam sect. The most venerable Thero's appointment makes him the 22nd Mahanayaka of the Askari chapter.
The special Sangha Council meeting to elect the new Mahanayaka for the Askari chapter was held at the Askari Mahaviharaya today. The decision to select a Mahanayaka Thera is taken with the consent of 19 Theras of the Sangha Council. Solos Mastanadipati of Pulanarwa, Venerable Vendaruwe Upaliyan Nayaka Thera, was also proposed for the post of Mahanayaka of the Askari chapter. Following his appointment, the Mahanayaka of the Askari chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Warakagoda Jnanaratna Thera, cast his blessing to the gathering, after which procedures came to a close. President Maithripala Sirisena extended his wishes to the newly appointed Mahanayaka Thera.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is on an official visit to China, called on his Chinese counterpart Li Qiang today.
The meeting had taken place in Beijing, and international media reported that both prime ministers engaged in bilateral discussions. Attention had also been drawn towards the trade affairs between both nations. A statement from the Prime Minister's office noted that Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang announced to provide Sri Lanka a grant of 500 million yuan to symbolize the friendship between Sri Lanka and China. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe called on the Chinese Minister of International Department of the Chinese Communist Party Song Thao this morning at the Dioyuthai State Guest House in Beijing. Attention was drawn towards initiating exchange programs on organization and training between the two nations. Ministers Sajid Premadasam, Mangala Samaraveeram, Malik Samaravikram, Nimal Siddipala De Silva, Dr. Sarath Amargam and Raf Hakim are accompanying the Prime Minister on this visit.
A media briefing to announce cabinet decisions took place in Colombo today.
Views were expressed on the Prime Minister's official visit to China.
We have a Chinese debt of $8 billion. The investments are not sufficient. During this official visit, the government hopes to have discussions to increase the investments. A decision has been reached to recommence the Port City project. We will negotiate a $125 million penalty that a Chinese state firm is seeking from Sri Lanka for suspending work on the Port City development project. Some questioned as to how Sri Lanka-China relations would be built when there is an issue like this. A statement from the Chinese Foreign Minister notes that this is a normal thing and that there are collisions in businesses. We need to further strengthen the relations between Sri Lanka and China. By the last quarter of 2015, we had an increase of 2.5% in our economic growth. We are now in a state that by the end of 2016, we can hit an increase in our economical growth by 4.8%. We control the rate of the dollar in our country by chipping money in from the reserve. So when we constantly kept putting money in from the reserves, our export incomes gradually decreased. So the exporters started putting pressure on the government's shoulders on various occasions. We asked them not to pull money off the reserves, but the central bank has been doing this for some time now. However, now this is on a floating rate. We will present this by next week at the discussion on how we are going to manage our economy.
Journalists raise questions on loans that can be taken from the International Monetary Fund.
The IMF agreement will be finalized next week. We are hoping for 1.5 billion, but we will definitely receive 1 billion.
Views were expressed on airlines during the briefing.
We have a loan payment of 998 million from Sri Lankan Airlines. In 2009, Sri Lankan Airlines received profits from Emirates. Taxes were paid. But due to the weaknesses of the administration and by the question that was raised by our government, we now have a loan of 998 million within this period of time. We do not have any resistance to this. With the shifts in policies, the government has discussed with both sides by taking different courses of action, and by making changes in the management, this will be shifted onto a completely different avenue.
UPFA parliamentarian Mahinda Yapawewardena, speaking in Parliament today, questioned the number of ministers in the government.
Over a question that was raised in Parliament, a cabinet minister made a promise to the Speaker that the total number of ministers in the government will be revealed to Parliament today. This has not been done as yet. 47 cabinet ministers including the President, 20 state ministers, 25 deputy ministers. Yet there are discussions over those who wish to cross over to this side. There are positions available since this is a national government. Speak to your group on who will cross over to this side.
The Convention Against Doping in Sports Act was taken up for debate in Parliament today. Attention was highly drawn on the expenditure of Ministry of Sports.
Within a span of 15 months, the country's sports sector has seen a severe downfall. So I would like to address this to the Honourable Minister, because if we continue this way, we will not be able to recover from it.
This is what we usually say when we go to the opposition as well. Nevertheless, when we made such allegations, they had to be proved. I would like to mention a number of sports that saw a major downfall. When I took over this ministry, 17 sports associations had become associations with severe issues which arose during your tenure. A majority of them brought a large amount of complaints, with many examples that there were politicians interfering in sport in Sri Lanka.
You say that political interference in sports is wrong, but the Prime Minister tried to appoint a committee for cricket which is above you.
No, there was no issue as such. He has not told us to appoint any such committee. There is no such issue. I think the Cricket Board is still billions in debt to certain institutions. For example, they owe the State Engineering Corporation a sum of around 980 million rupees. The Cricket Board is backlogged with a ton of such debts. They have fallen to a situation where they cannot free their arms and do any work. So we asked that they be given a little time so we could systematically and gradually get through this.
When we were playing the World Cup, the government promised us they would give us money, and since the government did not do it, we tabled a cabinet paper saying that the board would not pay, so we do not have to pay it.
A cabinet decision was taken and was made mandatory for the payment of 1.2 billion rupees for the Suryawepa Stadium by the Cricket Board. Once it was approved, a sum of 1.2 million rupees of the Cricket Board was paid for the Suryawepa Stadium in Hambantota. Moreover, there is a sum of around 500 million rupees due to the Pallakali Stadium in Kandy and the Premadasa Stadium, which, as you said, a request has been made to make a payment of around 880 million rupees with interest. So the Ministry of Minister Sajid Premadasa has made a request of a payment of 50 million rupees to be made every 6 months. With your intervention, you have provided a relief time period for this purpose. So it must be said that this has clearly and severely harmed the financial administration for the improvement of cricket.
When we were to host the World Cup, a commitment was asked from the government. So the former president in writing signed and said that the government would support it. So you are aware that even the government of Bangladesh funded us with money. However, after telling us to construct the stadium, the government did not give us the money. So I told the cabinet that the cricket board cannot pay the money for this. It was the government which said that it would provide the money for it, but they did not assist us. So we will not pay a cent to these two institutions. The government and the treasury should sort it out among themselves. We said this and we tabled a cabinet paper as well. So you do not have to make any payment. The government had made a commitment, so let the government and the treasury resolve it. But you should not pay it. I would like to present some facts on this matter because I was serving as the chairman of the State Engineering Corporation at the time. But this agreement is clearly with the Cricket Board, not with the government. So the Cricket Board is bound with the responsibility of making that payment to the State Engineering Corporation. He is lying. A completely new program will be formulated on this matter to overlook this matter all over again, where a backdrop can be created to take this program forward in a proper manner. So while this is being implemented, certain individuals are attempting to create interim committees once again. I, as the Minister of Sports, and for as long as I am, will not leave room for any more interim committees to be created. It would be much better if I submitted my letter of resignation to the President.
Navin Dissanayake, the Minister of Plantations, toured Akurassa today to look into issues faced by tea smallholders.
The minister, following the inspection, promised to solve the issues faced by the tea smallholders in Akurassa. The chief of the Tea Smallholdings Development Authority and other officials were also present.
During this visit, I realized the issues faced by the tea smallholders, and I hope to conduct investigations with the Prime Minister to initiate a program to grant some form of relief for them during the festive season. This issue has arisen as a result of the drop of global tea prices. We have launched a program to successfully face this situation.
A demonstration took place in Sampur today against the proposed coal power plant in Sampur.
The demonstration was staged by the Beach Adivasi community or the Beach Indigenous community living in close proximity to the site of the proposed coal power plant. They charge that if the power plant was built, it will affect their livelihood, which mainly depends on trees and other natural means. They allege that their China lands are being used directly for the site of the construction. The demonstrators request the authorities to seize the plan to go ahead with the construction. This has harmful effects on us and on the environment, so we are against this.
If the power plant is built, the fishermen will not get to engage in fishing activities while we will not be able to cultivate our crops. That's why we request the government to stop this.
On to our developing story tonight. Tonight on our segment, we delve deep once again into the Panama Papers controversy.
In the latest development, according to the ICIJ website, 8 members of China's Communist Party elite whose family members used offshore companies are revealed in the Panama Papers. The documents show the granddaughter of a powerful Chinese leader became the sole shareholder in 2 British Virgin Island companies while still a teenager. Other prominent figures who have taken advantage of offshore companies include the brother-in-law of the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, and the son-in-law of Zhang Gaoli, another member of China's top political body, the Politburo Standing Committee. Panamanian President Juan Carlos Varela yesterday said that Panama would form an independent commission to review the country's financial practices following the data leak.
El gobierno de Panamá, a través de nuestra Cancillería, creará un comité independiente de expertos nacionales.
The Panamanian government, via our foreign ministry, will create an independent commission of domestic and international experts which are recognized for their experience to evaluate our current practices and propose the adoption of measures that we will share with other countries in the world to strengthen the transparency of the financial and legal systems. We will work not only internally in our country, but also we will direct efforts to benefit the rest of the world.
The Panama Papers row has sparked a number of other countries to launch investigations, including India, France, Netherlands, Sweden, UK, Australia, US, Germany and Spain. As a result of the latest revelations, Sri Lanka too has come under the spotlight with regard to this controversy. However, despite the fact that 3 Sri Lankan companies have been mentioned in the report, the island nation is yet to launch any concrete investigation into the findings.
Panama Papers සම්බන්ධයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේගේ නම් සඳහන් වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා තියෙනවා. සිද්ධීන් 200 ගණනක් Seychelles වලට සම්බන්ධ.
It is stated that the names of Sri Lankans are listed in these Panama Papers. It is said that 200 cases are connected to Seychelles. We know who carried out deals in the Seychelles in the past. When we receive information, there will be a proper investigation that will be carried out. We are collecting information at present. This is a huge problem around the world, like WikiLeaks. There have been millions of documents. It will take time since there are state leaders, politicians, companies and individuals. There are a number of institutions that investigate corruption. We will receive international support as well.
We will do as a government everything to be transparent, everything to find out if ever there is an accusation that has been made against Sri Lanka or any Sri Lankan personality. We will transparently investigate it, but that's the information that we have at present. But it's going to take a long time, as you know, it involves international law, banking secrecy laws. But we will not allow anybody to basically break international law or Sri Lankan law, and we have, as you know, a money laundering law as well as a financial transactions law.
If there is information pertaining to Sri Lankans and former politicians, what the government should do is to immediately investigate into the matter and take necessary legal action. We too are on the lookout for the money that was robbed from the people and the properties that were extorted. What we need is the information. The government will investigate into this and take the relevant action. These are money that have been earned unlawfully. We want the information and we are happy that it is being revealed. We would like to state that like the Panama revelation, the central bank too robbed blatantly. There have been complaints lodged with the Bribery Commission regarding the matter. We ask the Director General of the Bribery Commission to investigate into that complaint as well.
Well, that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. If you want to read up on any of the stories that we add tonight, simply log on to www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ramesh Irugal Bandara.
And I'm Rahna Farooq. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant night.